Live with balanced news you can count on. This is News 4 at 4.
So cold out there, and your plants are starting to look pretty shabby. You might want to prune them, you think, but it's really not that good a thing to do right now.
Unless it's your rose bushes. January is the month to cut them back, and I mean way back. Our 5-minute gardener, Debbie Mounts from Harlow Gardens, shows us how.
January, as I understand it from you, Debbie, is the perfect time to get those rose bushes ready for the spring.
Right, indeed. January is the time that you want to do your what we call your radical pruning. Now you do a light pruning in September, but in January you cut this bush drastically. Now different rosarians will give you different amounts to cut, but generally if you cut your bush in half, that's a good place to start. Wow. And when you're done, even if you have a big bush, I have big bushes at my house, and I'll have a 7-foot bush. Now I take it down to 3 to 3.5 feet. Take it just right in half. Okay. And when you're done, you also have to make sure and strip off all the leaves too. So this guy's going to be naked when we're done.
How do you know where to cut? You
know where to cut because you always cut above either a leaflet, a 4-leaf leaflet, or if the cane has dropped a number of its leaves, you'll notice there's a little red swelling, which they call a bud, and you want to cut on the outside of the cane where there's either a leaf set or a red swelling. You cut on a diagonal 1/4 inch above that swelling. Okay. So I'm going to start cutting as we talk.
Okay, go ahead.
And you want to cut on the outside because you want to encourage this bush to give you a new cane, and it's going to give you a new cane wherever you cut. So that means that this guy that I just cut is going to give me a new cane that will come out this way. Okay. And as I go, I try to pull off all the leaves. Okay. Now when I'm done, my goal is to have a bush that is open like this, that has the canes that are naked and has kind of a vase shape. Okay, now this guy I'm going to cut off because he's coming right through the center. He's going to interfere with that vase shape. This guy's going to come off too. We're just going to take him off.
It almost looks like you're killing this plant.
It does, you know, and it's really funny because I've had people I've done demonstrations for before, and they say, "Good Lord, my neighbor says you can't cut it that much." I said, "Well, you tell them that Debbie said that you can cut them that much." And this guy I'm going to cut out too because he's crossing right through the middle of the bush. Okay. So we're going to give this guy a really good haircut.
Now, Debbie, once you have given this plant a good haircut, if we have a really hard freeze, you have to make sure and protect it.
Well, what happens is if we have another hard freeze right now, then the only parts of the plant that are going to be vulnerable is the new growth. If it has started to put off new growth on the rose, then that growth can get frozen back. But even if it does get frozen back, the rose will come right back and give you more new growth. Okay. Can you see I'm getting this kind of a vase-shaped thing going here? Yes. Yep. Now, after you've done this, I'm pulling leaves off. He's going to be naked. After you've done this, what I want you to do is take a little bit of Elmer's glue and seal off the tips of these cuts because you want to make sure and seal them because there's a little insect called a borer that gets in there. Okay. Exactly. And what happens is the borer gets in there, and you just need regular Elmer's glue is just fine. The borer gets in there, and he just starts to eat down the center of the cane. And this just seals it off. You can use wood glue too. Wood glue is just fine. Okay. So when you're done, you seal all of your cuts.
Okay, and these back here, you're going to cut too?
I'm going to cut too. I'm going to cut the whole thing.
And then we will see how naked you're going to actually leave it.
All righty. We'll do that. All right, we'll do that.
Okay. Wow. And no more fertilizing roses until...
You do start, once you do your cuts, normally you want to do your cuts around the middle of January. Okay. And then you do start to fertilize it. We're going to take this guy out because he could rub on one of the other ones. Okay. So we're going to leave this bush just like this.
Yeah,
one more cut. There he is. And now I'll go back through with the glue and add all these cuts. So you start your fertilizing right away. And don't forget to use Epsom salts. Epsom salts are really magnesium sulfate. They give you bigger, brighter blooms.
And water with that?
Every time you fertilize, you use Epsom salts. Okay. You know, if you have any questions about how much and for your rose, come on in and see us, and we'll help you decide that.
And this will bloom again?
This will bloom again. It'll start to leaf out in the next week or so. It'll start to give you new buds and new growth, and it'll be blooming again end of March. Generally, it depends upon the bush. but into March and into April, you'll have big, beautiful blooms.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, Debbie joins us now, and you really hacked that thing away.
I know, I tell people that's why people don't pay me to cut their hair. Maybe in another life I was like the Marine Corps hair cutter, Marine Corps barber or something, yes.
Now, is it different? Do you do different things in terms of pruning rose bushes in the ground versus rose bushes in a pot?
No, no, all rose bushes you prune the same, whether they're in a pot or in the ground. The main difference for potted roses is that they need to have a water-soluble fertilizer. You don't want a chemical, hard chemical fertilizer for them because that can build up in the pot. So you want to use a water-soluble or something that's like a time-release fertilizer that'll slowly fertilize over time.
For roses?
For roses,
Okay.
right,
Okay.
indeed.
People really love their roses.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like we said at the top of the segment, a lot of people are afraid because there's so much work involved. But some people you see never working on them, and they just seem to flourish. And other people are always tending to them, and they just don't go.
Well, you know, I generally, I have beautiful roses in my yard, and I don't have time to fuss. But I bring in big bouquets in the spring to work. And if you know the basics, if you know the basic amount of water, and you're pretty regular with fertilizing, they're pretty forgiving, and you give them a little afternoon shade in the summertime. They can really use that here. They're pretty forgiving. And I always tell my people in my classes, it's pretty darn hard to drown a rose in Tucson, Arizona. Unless you throw it in the swimming pool, then you might drown it, but otherwise, they're thirsty. So you want to try to set up some kind of water harvesting or something that maybe is a little more forgiving.
And in the 30 seconds we have left, how do you cut a rose off a rose bush so that you have a beautiful long bloom?
Well, you can cut, you do the exact same thing that you did when I was pruning. You always cut at the top of the rose, here's the rosebud, and then there'll be a little set of leaves,
Right.
and they'll have 3 leaves on it. You don't cut above that. You always cut above at least a 5-leaf set. You cut about a 1/4 inch above on the diagonal, and as long as you like.
All right. Thank you so
stuff.
much. What a
Thank you,
great
guys.
lesson.